up, everybody? As you know, every other week or every week, I can't really remember, CJ knows better than I, we open up and ask me anything on my Instagram to answer your questions. Sorry we missed last week. The questions were too good for us to rush on it, so we took a little bit more time to get this prepared.
Yeah, this week we're answering questions on a topic that has been like really popping off for us, especially on YouTube. So thank you, community, for giving us all of the great ideas. And that topic is secure attachment.
Let's freaking go. I am so pumped about this one. I think it's beautiful because I don't think there's enough secure attachment examples out there in social media. I think that most of social media is like watching out for red flags. And so it primes people's brains to look for, it's like training them to become hypervigilant, right? As opposed to being able to see the green flags and see secure things, because secure attachment will trigger you almost more than insecure attachment at times because you're so used to it and stuff. So we'll talk more about that, but I'm excited for this one. I love putting this kind of stuff into the world because we need more examples and like things like that.
Yeah, I mean, what you just said is almost like what most of our comments are on like, I didn't know about this, or I've never seen a piece of content like this before on like our attachment translator series. If you haven't watched our attachment translator series, go check it out. Then we go through different kinds of relationship dynamics, whether it's an anxious and an avoidant together. Recently, we're doing like secure and anxious. So if you want some little like micro examples, that's a great reference and what gave us the idea to go ahead and go forward with this long form video.
I just finished scripting some more attachment translator episodes today as well. I write all of them, which is fun. I love doing it. It's so fun. So I think we're on episode like 14. It's been our longest standing series over on Instagram. Well, TikTok, Instagram, all the places. It's on YouTube Shorts too, actually. So it's everywhere.
All right, let's go ahead and dive in now that we've got some intro. So before we get into all of the questions, let's just get some clarification on secure attachment, because there seems to be a disconnect as to what it is, how it works, the gap on social media, obviously pointing out all of these red flags. So what is secure attachment? What does it look like?
Yeah. So if you want the like research-backed one sentence version of this, secure attachment means that I'm worth caring about and others are genuinely safe to rely on. That would be what secure attachment like kind of looks like. If you think about a kid from a kid's perspective, because that's where this stuff forms, you could think of like a toddler who is at a playground and they wander off to play or whatever, and they check back with a parent to see if they're there, and they kind of get distressed a little bit if the parent steps away, and then they calm down when the parent comes back. So like they know that they can rely on that other person to come back and to provide some safety. In adult relationships, it can look like being comfortable with closeness, being able to ask for support directly, being able to handle conflict without panicking or withdrawing. I've personally always said that secure attachment is really about being great at rupture and repair, because to me, this is the clearest sign of a secure attachment. Like, what's your default when there's a rupture? Do you shut down? Do you run away? Do you get stressed that it means it's the end of the relationship? Like you can't survive any kind of rupture? Those would be more like avoidant and anxious tendencies, if you will, in relation to like rupture and repair. If you turn towards it and can communicate clearly what's going on for you, stay in it and keep it lighthearted and things like that. We just did a skit on this actually. And you know how to repair well, you're really likely secure. Like that is a really healthy sign that like you're secure. And I just want to remind you that attachment research consistently shows that secure attachment is by far the most common type of attachment. The exact percentages depend on how it's measured, right? Because we've gotten a lot of comments about this. So I'm going to put this research in the description below, or CJ will help me do that. But if you look at like observational studies in children, like the strain situation test, Answorth forever ago, as far as attachment, along with interview-based adult methods, clinical methods, all sorts of different methods, not just self-report methods, it still generally places secure attachment around 50 to 60% of the population. So again, I'll put the research in the comments that I can sit like, and I put so much research. CJ will be potentially overwhelmed with the amount of research I put in the supporting research section of this note, but that it consistently shows that an overwhelming majority of secure attachment is the most common attachment style, contrary to popular belief.
Before we actually get into like a lot of our questions, which are a lot about, like moving towards secure attachment or what that looks like in a relationship, I want to clear something else up about secure attachment that I've been getting a lot in the comments. And that is like, I think this conflict repair piece kind of messes with people because they assume that that means you're sort of like a wet blanket. You know what I mean? Like you're just getting treated badly or your boundaries are getting walked over and you're just like, so even or like level-headed about it that, you're just kind of laying over and folding in this relationship or ending up with people that you shouldn't be with. Like that seems to be a very common conception, or like that secure somehow messes with like your confidence. So can you tell us more about maybe like what this repair and security should actually look like if you're in a relationship, maybe with an anxious or an avoidant from the secure side? Obviously, we do some skits on this too, so please check those out. That's where I'm getting a lot of these comments. comments.
Yeah, no, for sure. This is interesting. That's wild. To me, not at all what secure attachment means, that you're just a pushover and like letting someone do whatever they want. I actually talk about this in one of the later questions in here. I talk a little bit about this, but from my perspective, secure attachment and rupturing and repairing means that you can do this well, but that does not mean that you don't hold a standard, that you don't have boundaries, that you just continually let someone disrespect you. If someone is stonewalling you and shutting down and leaving conversations in a way that's dysregulating to your nervous system, a secure person would have the conversation directly and firmly with someone, in that case, more of an avoidant person, have that conversation and say, hey, this is the specific behavior that I'm noticing. Here's how it's making me feel and what it does to me. Here is what I would love to change and for us to work on and create a system for, and then observe the patterns. If that is the conversation that continues to happen over and over and over and over again, and there's no shift or change, a securely attached person would say, this ain't it. This is not for me. They're not there to fix someone and let them run over them, right? A securely attached person is not sold on what could be. They're sold on what is, what's happening in front of their face. Someone who's more anxiously attached, they'll want to fix more. Someone who's avoidantly attached would probably not be having this conversation, right? And so it's not about just getting run over or just accepting everything, or that's not it at all. It's about being able to clearly articulate what boundaries being poked on, what need, want, desire is not being fulfilled, communicate that, and then observe. And if the observation that you make is that they cannot fulfill those things for you, or they continuously poke your buttons, press against your triggers, and do things that you have articulated are no-goes, non-negotiables for you, acting upon that is what secure behavior would look like in that situation, meaning sayonara. Peace out. This ain't for me. And maintaining that boundary, because your secure attachment ultimately means you're secure inside of yourself. The love, connection, affection, attention, all of the things you're getting out from outside of yourself, you provide for yourself internally. So you're not losing something necessarily. You're not losing everything, all love and everything when you are securely attached inside of yourself. So setting that boundary and being willing to enforce it and act upon it is not as scary when you're securely attached, because you've got that for yourself. Yes, it'll hurt. Yes, it sucks. Yes, relationships provide additional safety and oxytocin and all sorts of amazing things, but it's a bonus, not a lifeline to someone who's truly secure. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's like a great way of putting it that will hopefully help clear up, some of that. So I think, a lot of what gets lost is just, again, in these relationship dynamics, and a lot of what like I see in the comments is, and try to respond to people is, if you're a secure person, then you're able to kind of see where that hurt is coming from in other people. You have done the work yourself, you understand it, you're able to empathize with that greater, and then be able to pick out, like you said, well, are they, being calm, curious, open-minded about having this conversation, or are they shutting down and, like refusing to be that healing? I did actually get one comment today that I think would be like a great little add-on to this before we get into the questions, which I obviously responded to this person. I said, well, this doesn't sound very secure of you, but not wanting to be a teacher in a relationship, essentially. I'm like, well, if I've done all of the work and I'm, emotionally available and I'm in this position, like, why is it up to me to be in these conversations? Which we always talk about, leadership in a relationship as opposed to this kind of like teaching power imbalance thing. Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, from my perspective, they sound emotionally intelligent, but not emotionally available. Bottom line, they are willing and able to tell someone it's raining, but unwilling to stand in the rain with them. So they would rather talk about it and feel like, oh, I'm providing more than they're providing. It sounds like, and I don't know this person, I all love towards them. Right. I'm just giving my perspective here, because if you really are securely attached, again, you're full. You're completely full. You're not thinking, oh, well, I'm going to give a little and they're going to give a little. And like, you're not thinking about reciprocity in that way. You give completely freely because you have total abundance inside of you, and you can give that abundance and extend it out to others without having to think about, oh, I'm going to tap myself out here, or I'm always going to be the one that has to do this. And again, that comes with perspective and clarity and like watching the patterns. If reciprocity is consistently not coming back and forth, and you see that as a pattern long term, okay, that's a discernment that you can make with that secure clarity that you have. But if you're constantly counting beans from day one, you're never going to know. Like, you're never going to be able to understand those things. And is that really what you want love to be? Is constantly checking reciprocity and having to do these things, right? To me, it sounds like someone who is constantly have to count those things is someone that has been hurt in the past and is projecting that hurt onto a future scenarios before they're even in them, right? So if you're securely attached and you've healed those things, though, then you're not worried about that. You're not worried about, you give freely, because you have an overwhelming, unlimited supply of that energy and love to give. If you're worried about that being tapped out, you're probably not giving enough of that to yourself and don't have enough of that secure self-love inside of you yet, which is okay. It's everybody's journey. I would highly recommend taking a look at the part of you that's worried about this, because I don't think it's you, it's a part of you that is trying to make sure you don't get hurt again by overgiving. So that would be kind of my thought on that concept.
Yeah. I think that's great. Sorry we keep baiting y'all. We'll get into like the actual questions that you asked. By the way, this at the time of posting, there will be more questions like on our Instagram. So go check out the Mind Brain Body Lab Instagram, check out our stories, hit reply. I don't know what the topic is going to be yet. So surprise. So this by far was our most popular question that multiple people asked, which is how can I move from anxious to secure attachment?
Love this question. So my favorite quote is whatever the mind can conceive and believe it can achieve. And moving from anxious to secure attachment, you've got to hit all of those. So first of all, everyone's there. If they ask this question, you're probably there. You've already conceived that it's something that you want to do. Like you can see that vision for yourself and you want to become that kind of person who's more securely attached. That's amazing. The next step is you got to believe it, right? So awareness is the first step, conceiving of it, and then believing it that it's possible is next, which your brain is so freaking plastic. Attachment styles are not permanent. And despite what social media wants you to believe, you can shift your attachment style throughout your entire life. I've done it myself and I've done it with tons of clients. Okay. So it is something you can absolutely do. And so you have to fully believe that for it to be possible. So conceive and believe are the first steps. So when you're thinking about achieving this outcome, right? Conceive, believe, achieve. One of the first things I would suggest is to learn how to shift from processing the world outside to inside to outside. I've mentioned this a couple times already as far as like feeling secure inside of yourself. But as long as your sense of safety comes from the outside of yourself, you'll always be dependent on someone else to keep you safe. Okay. And I am very clearly not saying that relationships aren't supposed to make you feel safe. They are for sure. And you can create safety inside of yourself too, right? And that is secure attachment. That is what secure attachment is. Then when you enter a relationship, you're rock solid, right? With yourself. So you can safety and love and connection and all of that can come from the outside again as a bonus, but not a lifeline. It's way different. When two secure people are coming together in a relationship, it's 1 + 1 = 11, right? It's not 1 + 1 = 2, right? It's not 50-50. Two halves coming together to make a whole. It's two wholes coming together to make something even greater. And that is one of the best ways to do that. Again, is to learn how to process the world different than you did as a child. When you're a kid, you grow up thinking and believing that things outside of me keep me safe and love me because we have to. That's in our development. Like if you just put a baby on a counter, it couldn't survive without outside helping it or outside supporters or caregivers helping it, providing love, attention, affection to it, right? And so we develop this outside to inside perspective as children. And we're never really taught how to shift that, how to change that. And that gets us in trouble in adult relationships, especially if you are anxiously attached. So if you're trying to go from anxious to secure attachment, this is even more important, right? Because it is that external attachment figure that is causing oftentimes this dysregulation, needing them to be close to feel safe, right? Needing this external person to regulate yourself, to feel calm, to feel like things are okay, to feel like you're not going to be abandoned. Because internally, right, you're unwilling to look at that abandonment wound yourself, unwilling to look at those anxious parts of you yourself and get to know them and help regulate yourself. Become that internal source of regulation for yourself instead of depending on someone else for it. I'm not saying it is bad to depend on someone else. I'm not saying that. I want to be so clear. But I think we've taken that to further than it needs to in today's society. And I really do think it's a big issue in modern dating is we put so much pressure on relationships. We expect them to be everything for us. Our therapist, our mom, our partner, our workout buddy, our philosopher, like all these different things that we put on this relationship. And it's like, dude, let's do some stuff inside of ourselves too, so we can show up more whole. And once you can do that, you have so much to give. I've told the magical kitchen story a couple times, but the bottom line, the baseline is that some people are born with a magical kitchen. And in that magical kitchen, their food, safety, love, all of that is provided. It's abundant. The magical kitchen always provides. It's always there. It's unlimited supply. All the kids in that house are fed. They never question whether food's going to be there or not. It's always there, period. Some people aren't born with a magical kitchen, right? Food is random. It's sometimes there, sometimes not. They can't build a dependency on that kitchen providing for them constantly. And so when food's not there, they get really, really scared that it's never going to return, right? And that's someone who is more of an anxious attachment style. That's the kind of kitchen they might have. Secure attachment is really learning and developing and building out your own magical kitchen that is and can supply all parts of you with an unlimited supply of love, attention, affection, care, support, safety, and food in this analogy, right? Or this metaphor. And that's a huge part of building that magical kitchen is a huge part of becoming more securely attached, is building that dependency inside of yourself first, because you can always depend on that. You can always rely on that. And your agency lives in you, not outside of you. And so by building that kitchen, you are building a more securely attached system. And then calling back to the previous question about how, oh, well, I always have to be the one to give. If you have a magical kitchen, you have unlimited food to give. You're not counting, right? And so if you really do have that secure magical kitchen, then again, you're not counting. One of the best ways, and one of the things that I know for sure, is that you can't think your way into a secure attachment, right? You've got to get the reps. You've got to break the loops. You've got to shift the behaviors. And some of the best ways to do this that I know of and that I use for myself and with my clients is parts work with IFS. The first thing you got to do is differentiate your anxious parts from one another to get more clarity, and then start to work with each of them in relation to what they're guarding. So maybe you have a part that when they don't text back quick enough, what does that part start to say, right? I've had these parts in my past. Oh, they're cheating on me. Oh, they're going to leave me. Oh, they're mad at me. Like, what is coming up for that part? And differentiate that from yourself. This is a part of you that's anxious, not you that's anxious, right? There is a secure part of self, part of you, internal parent that is securely attached. It is a part of you that is anxious in this moment when they're not texting you back, or any random example. And you can talk to that part of yourself and have a conversation with it and figure out what are you guarding me from? You're afraid that if they aren't texting me back that they're mad at me. Okay. And if they're mad at me, what are you afraid would happen? Well, if they're mad at me, then that's meant that they're going to leave. Okay. And if they leave, then what? Then I'll be alone. I'll be abandoned and alone. Got it. Okay. So your deepest fear is that I'll be abandoned and alone. That makes sense. Let me just ask you, how old do you think I am? Oh, like 4 or 5. Oh, actually, I'm 20 or I'm 30 something now. I had no idea. I can't believe that. That's crazy, right? And these parts, they do not realize they were built when we were kids and they needed to perform these roles, but they don't have to perform these roles anymore. Okay. And so IFS is one of the best tools. That was like a rapid part session. Like, it's way deeper than that in an actual IFS session. Maybe we should do one of those, like a live one of those or something. Maybe we can publish one, but IFS is the best tool for this kind of work, without a doubt. I have an IFS therapist myself. I do parts work for myself, in myself. And it's what I help people with it's what I practice and how I help people as well is performing IFS. So I've done it hundreds of times. Okay. But the bottom line is secure attachment is not a feeling you wait for. It's a skill that you drill. It's something you build. You regulate before you relate every single time until your body and your nervous system believes it and becomes your way of being, right? But it's something that you're remembering, not something that you are learning for the first time. That's the important part.
Yeah, that was, probably going to be our longest answer, because like that applies to any movement of attachment styles into secure, and then breaks down how exactly you do that ballpark. The thing I'd want to add on to that is, starting with the conceive portion of this. If you found our way to our page, I get so many comments and I'm so appreciative of it, of I didn't know that this was a thing. And now that I know, I'm happy to be able to start working on it and things like that. And if you're being approaching that conversation, curious, you see one of our videos and you're like, I think that's me and I want to work on that, then you're already one step in conceiving. If you asked this question, you're one step into conceiving, and you understand this is something that maybe I want to work on, and you're one step closer to actually getting the tools to do that. So no fears if you're dang, that's me, because that is you.
Right. 100%. You are so far ahead. Closing the knowing doing gap is your next mission. Now it's time to do. That's what will actually shift you out of this.
So these next two questions kind of go together and are about switching attachment styles, which is something we've been getting a lot of questions about lately. So the first question is, can you be secure and then become anxious because of a blind side?
I have a lot to say about this.
And maybe for reference, some of you guys should go check out our last AMA video, which was us asking questions about Cody's breakup that led us down this pipeline that we're on right now. Go check that out.
Yes. So can you be secure and then become anxious because of a blind side? Sure, that is possible. But what if you're not anxiously attached? What if you just went through something really fucked up? I don't know, being discarded from a relationship with literally no warning at all. And now your nervous system is reacting in a totally human way, right? I cannot tell you how many times I get in a call and someone's like, I think I'm anxiously attached or disorganized attached. And I ask, okay, well, was it like this before the breakup or before you got discarded? And they're like, no, I was chill. I was steady. I trusted. I didn't really overthink things. And I was like, okay, so you weren't anxious. You were bonded, and your beating fucking heart was ripped out of your chest, got shredded to pieces. And now your nervous system is doing what nervous systems do when attachments rupture. It's scanning, it's replaying, it's ruminating, it's panicking, it's trying to make sense of the chaos. It's looking for control. That is not pathology though. That is biology. That's psychology. It's freaking neuroscience. Okay. But then, and this is what I really get passionate about, and I know we make social media content, so I'm so happy that we're hearing people say these things, because what happens next is that you go to social media and all of a sudden you're in this attachment style echo chamber of sorts. It's 5 signs you're anxiously attached. Why you chase avoidance? Trauma bonds explained. You ignored the red flags, and suddenly you're like, oh wait, am I the problem? No, you are grieving. You're going through an attachment rupture, and there's a humongous difference. True anxious patterns are chronic. They show up across multiple relationships. It's long-standing fear of abandonment, and it shows up with friends, with family, with dating, with work. A normal nervous system response after a rupture, though, is event-specific. It's activated after a loss. It's a temporary dysregulation because something meaningful ended abruptly, which makes freaking sense, dude. Like, you see the difference in these two things? One is a pattern. The other is a wound. Okay. And you know what is actually worth looking at in all of this is the pattern of the second something painful happens, you immediately go to, what did I do wrong? What should I have done better? How am I broken? That's the reflex that's worth looking at more importantly than anything. Not because it makes you insecurely attached, but because it means your brain would rather blame yourself than sit in powerlessness, which is tough. Self-blame feels like control. If it's your fault, you can fix it next time. But sometimes it's not your freaking fault. Okay. Sometimes someone lacked capacity. Sometimes someone blindsided you. Sometimes someone deactivated and bailed. Who the fuck knows? Okay. And your nervous system reacted exactly how a healthy bonding nervous system reacts when connection is ripped away. That's being human. So before you diagnose yourself with anxious attachment because you're spiraling after your discarded, just ask yourself, like, was I like this before? If the answer is no, you're likely securely attached. 60% of humans are, like we just talked about. You just got hurt. So stop letting the internet turn your heartbreak into a freaking personality disorder. All right? I'm pretty passionate about this subject.
Yeah, I have a quick follow-up question on that because we just did a short on, how people are able to exhibit multiple attachment styles, like especially with different people. So in this case, like, how would you know maybe what your default is? You mentioned, maybe how this is affected with relationships with friends or family as well, not just in dating. So how do you know kind of what you might lean towards to be able to provide some clarity here?
Yeah, again, attachment styles have become on the internet like this thing where it's like a Hogwarts house or a blood type. It's permanent and you get put in this bucket and that's it forever. But they're really more like patterns and tendencies, right? And so looking for those patterns and tendencies across multiple relationships in different contexts can help you start to establish what your baseline attachment might be. And if that baseline attachment, if your general perspective on the world is that you are worth caring about, you deserve love, care, attention, affection, and you can genuinely rely on other people and you feel like other people are genuinely safe and not going to abandon you at a baseline, you're probably baseline secure. And then in certain situations and certain contexts, if someone is being hot and cold or sending mixed signals, that makes you feel a little bit anxious. That doesn't necessarily mean you have an anxious attachment style or it's shifted your attachment style, right? You could just be like responding normally to someone sending mixed signals. So that's the first step, right? If over a long enough period of time, and you see this a lot in like toxic relationships, which one of our other questions talks about this, you truly can start to see super confident, clear, self-assured people completely shift into questioning their reality, questioning if they're the one that is the problem and being completely anxiously attached or becoming more avoidant and shut down and closed off themselves. Like you can definitely see that over a longer period of time in like, especially like complex trauma or like longer term toxic abusive type relationships. You can totally see that. And it'll be a longer standing pattern and you would start to feel it in other areas of your life as well. You'd start to feel that shift in your baseline in other areas and other relationships as well. So that's one of the best ways to look is patterns and tendencies, not just in your intimate partnership, but across different relationships to get your baseline. And then you can start to understand in what relationships, maybe with your family, you're more avoidantly attached because they were always closed off and emotionally unavailable to you when you were younger. So maybe in the family bucket, you have a little bit more, you lean a little bit more towards avoidance. Okay. But with your close friends, your best friends, you're securely attached. Maybe with newer intimate partners that you start to date, you lean a little bit more towards the anxious side. Like for me, I'm securely attached, but in intimate relationships in the beginning and some of these, in these early stages, I lean a little bit more towards the anxious side. Some of those thoughts come up and I work with those parts of me, but I define myself as securely attached, right? Even though some of those parts come up. So that's what I would suggest if someone's kind of trying to look and see where they sit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think that's actually all of this is kind of perfect segue to our next question, which was, can you be securely attached but default to anxious when dating and avoidant?
Yes, like I just mentioned, like that's totally normal. It's not necessarily a good sign, but it is possible, right? Like again, I've seen plenty of securely attached people in overtly toxic relationships and just watch their entire attachment system change before my freaking eyes. Like from secure, confident, and assured to questioning everything, thinking they're the crazy one, and just feeling anxiously attached. That's like an overtly toxic situation though, and I wouldn't necessarily call that the norm. Overall, what I would say in relation to your secure attachment defaulting to anxious, like when you're dating an avoidant, is that if you're truly securely attached, like I mentioned earlier, healthy rupture and repair is something that you can do without fear of abandonment. So if you're really securely attached and dating an avoidant, when they do things that make you uncomfortable, that make you anxious, or that are unacceptable to you, you'd say something about it. You'd ask for the behavior to change. And if it doesn't, after multiple attempts, you would move on. Again, you are not sold on what could be. You're sold on what is. And you act upon that knowledge. You believe them when they say they don't have space or capacity, and you don't make it about yourself, right? So maybe you're not anxiously attached. You're accurately responding to someone who can't hold depth, right? So seriously, stop diagnosing yourself or having a normal reaction to mixed signals, right? It is possible for sure, bottom line, to shift to more anxious. But if you stay in the chase, to me, that might indicate that you're more anxiously attached at a baseline by default than you might want to admit. And that's totally okay too. There's no problem with that. All attachments are shiftable and changeable. They're not permanent. It's not bad, but it's just something to take a look at.
All right. I want to wrap it up with this question that I think is the crux of a lot of the issues that we deal with and a major problem in modern dating, which is, how do you retrain your brain so you are attracted to calm, safe, and secure guys?
I literally just wrote an entire blog on this, so I've got a lot to say here, and I'll put the blog in. We'll put the Substack in the description. But your bottom line, your brain isn't scanning for healthy; it scans for familiar. Talked about this 100 times. If familiar meant tension, then calm is going to feel like nothing, and you're going to call that no spark. Okay, you can't force attraction, and you shouldn't try to. The work is not manufacturing chemistry for safe men. It's recalibrating what your body has been trained to read as chemistry in the first place. Okay, your brain is a prediction machine. It does not experience a guy cleanly. It runs him through every pattern it's ever logged and guesses what's coming next. So when a consistent guy shows up and texts when he's saying he will, and he doesn't leave you on read for hours, and there's no decoding like a 3-word freaking reply, somewhere around like 3 weeks or so, there's a little voice that goes, is there even a spark here? Okay, and I just want you to hear this very gently here. But the spark you are missing is most likely just cortisol, okay? The most addictive reward schedule that was ever been discovered is not consistent reward, it's intermittent reward. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Never really sure which it's going to be. It's the exact mechanism that makes slot machines so freaking impossible to walk away from, say. So the hot and cold partner keeps you on that variable schedule. And your brain reads that not knowing as electricity, okay, as chemistry, as him, okay, but it's not. A consistent partner gives you steady, low drama reward, and a system calibrated for a slot machine reads steady as flat. Okay, you don't have a chemistry problem, you have a calibration problem. The butterflies that you're mourning were a lot of the times your stress response wearing a pretty little cute outfit, okay, but not actually secure attachment, not a healthy relationship. Most people try to fix this from the outside, like I talked about earlier, outside in, new apps, new type of person. They force themselves on 3 dates with a nice guy and they just freaking white knuckle it. But again, that is external to internal, and that is not as powerful as going the opposite direction, going inward first. Because when calm finally shows up, it's a part of you that's going to get loud. And for a lot of the people that we work with, it's an overfunctioner of sorts. The part that learned that love had to be earned by being needed, by managing or holding everything together. A secure guy who can regulate himself leaves that part with nothing to do, and that part reads not being needed as not loved. So the hollow feeling, that the lack of spark, is not proof he's unavailable. It's a part of you panicking that its job became unnecessary. So before you go outward and bolt, go inward and unblend from that part. Just say, a part of me is terrified that calm means I'm not safe. That part is not all of me, and it is not reading the present accurately. And then you hand it new data. That's the rep, new experiences. That's how your brain shifts, grows, and changes. The other thing that you can do to help with this is to stop rating the spark, right? Start rating the settle, okay? If you see him, just check your body real quick. Are your shoulders up or do they drop? Track regulation, not intensity. Okay. So the first few times, calm feels like nothing, kind of. Okay. When it feels that way, just stay. Just try 5 reps, right? And eventually, boring quietly starts to turn into, I can actually breathe around this person, right? That's not settling. That is your wiring updating, right? It's unfamiliar, slowly becoming home, which is what you're looking to do here. Secure love is not going to make it feel like fireworks. It feels like exhaling. Okay. And that's not the absence of a spark, it's the presence of peace and a nervous system that finally believes it can put the freaking armor down. Okay. I went, again, way deeper on this in a recent Substack, and I went through 5 green flags that will actually trigger the shit out of you. What happens in your brain when you're being triggered, and then literally one tool, super specific tool for each of the things. So if this is something that you're interested in, you can go read the full blog. We'll put the whole thing in the description below, but it was a really good one.
Yeah, I would also recommend checking out one of our recent videos that is Trusting Your Gut is Ruining Your Love Life, that talks about, how your body lies and how it might be giving you the wrong signals, and you can't necessarily trust these common myths of, things like butterflies doesn't necessarily mean there's chemistry, probably means there's anxiety, different things like that. So go check out that full video as well for a little bit more clarity on what some of those feelings of chemistry might be like for you. Probably aren't chemistry. And another thing, like I like to bring up, as like a thought exercise in comments that I think is fun is, are you willing to miss out on a relationship if someone checks all of your boxes except for? So are you willing to miss out on a relationship if they check all of your boxes except for maybe they are a little bit avoidantly attached, or they check all of your boxes except for, in this case, you think that they're boring? Because a lot of the time that's, the language that gets used here is that this like lack of chemistry or butterflies or whatever you may feel that it is actually being bored, which is not true and pushes people in the wrong direction.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. Something that I just thought about as well in relation to being boring, like not feeling like the electric chemistry type thing, the slow burn is one thing. If you are genuinely bored with someone because you have no overlapping hobbies, you hate doing the things they like hate doing, or like it's boring in that way, that is a slightly different thing necessarily to kind of pay attention to as well. I would say that over 90% of the time someone is saying this to me, though, it's not that. It's more the chemistry or the electricity they feel like is missing, the spark.
Yeah, absolutely 100%. But I mean, I think in that case, it'd be like, not checking all your boxes or something like that. But yeah, as far as this chemistry, like, look, I get it. Like, I'm a huge movie fan. Like, I know how The Notebook was sold to us all. But that doesn't mean like it actually is a great example for how things should go in real life. So I think that was a good one to wrap up with there. Now you know how you can start attracting like this secure love.
Yeah, 100%. I hope this helps. I want to create more stuff like this, so that we can be a beacon for what secure love and attachment can look like, not just the bad stuff. I want to put more positive things out in the world, less negative ones, which is tough at times because algorithmically the negative stuff gets more likes, views, and attention, unfortunately enough. So it's a brain thing. We're working on it, but I do want to put more stuff out there like this as well, so that we can start to shift the tide on some of this stuff. So if you guys have more questions you want to ask, if this stirred more questions for you, again, we have AMAs that go up every single week. CJ puts them up on our Instagram. We collect all the questions and then we dump them all down into a episode like this where we talk about them. So at Mind Brain Body Lab on Instagram is where you can go drop that. So just watch for the next question box that'll pop up on my story. And then this video is helpful. Make sure that you like it, you subscribe to the channel so that you never miss a video. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for hopping on with us. Peace out.